I am James Noble. I am Festival Director of Coventry Motorfest. Motorfest is a festival that takes place in central Coventry every year. We have worked with Coventry City Council since the inception of the festival back in 2014.
It shuts down the whole ring road. It's the circular road that takes exits around the city, and it brings loads of people from all over the country to spectate and view these magnificent cars that have been built majority quite locally. We
showcase the past, the present and the future of Coventry's automotive endeavours. Earlier this year we started working with Coventry City Council on future transport technology and their programme around attracting new technologies into the city, but also promoting the city as a testbed for future transport solutions, how we will live and move and work in urban space in the future. Motorfest has been delivering events to kind of bring alive some of the work that's being done and to connect with business and with the people of the city and across the region to promote future transport technology, think about and answer questions around how we will move in the future.
Write that down. What we seek to do is organise a situation where anything can happen. It's actually the definition of anarchy. But
we realised that there was a question that needed answering around the way that the thinking is being done.
The ideas around future mobility, what the future looks like, how we plan and build our cities, our urban centres around movement. What does the future look and feel like, opposed to what are the mechanisms of travel?
When you get engineers, planners, architects, designers working together, often you will get really good problem-solving methodologies, but we began to realise that this approach was meaning that we were getting certain types of answers to certain questions, and so we thought it would be great to disrupt that and bring in some other voices to start thinking about how those questions are answered.
So we're very interested in what artists can bring to a conversation, and it's quite often the case that artists aren't part of that. So that was really where this conversation started.
So this week we've brought together 10 selected artists who work in different mediums, and we've exposed them to some of the thinking, some of the ideas around future transport technology, and we've asked them to respond, and we hope that their responses will disrupt the thinking, will bring in some new ways and new approaches.
See how we can influence and change processes and make it kind of more exciting, more dynamic.
Motorfest has been happening for the last few years in Coventry. As a resident in Coventry, I'm highly aware of Motorfest.
The Coventry Motorfest is a well-known festival that the city hosts.
Motorfest is really poignant to the city. It's within our DNA. We live, breathe motor vehicles.
Initially, when I saw that it was linked with Motorfest, I didn't quite understand how an artist lab could link with a car festival.
Why might Motorfest be interested in future ecologies? I want a piece of that. I want to be there, that's the time to talk.
I have no interest in vehicles, or I've never been to Motorfest. That was the biggest draw.
I heard about this event through a thing called Hope Coventry.
I heard about the project through New Ark West Midlands.
Someone who I used to work with emailed it to me.
I believe on Twitter.
I think I heard about the project via a tweet from Craig.
Calling for artists of any background, basically, to apply.
I thought it'd be good to mix with other artists, find out what people are doing here, who's here.
This could be good for my practice to develop it and see where it goes, but also to meet new people.
Being an engineer before and what I considered not an artist, yeah, I sat on it before I applied, and then I thought, no, I'm just going to give it a go.
I applied, and what never happens is they got me, they wanted me, which is great.
I am interested in new ways of thinking and new ways of working, and I like the idea of challenging myself.
Decades of attending sustainability conferences, hearing about fantastic global projects, and I think this is the intersection This is the really important space for conversations with the right people about lifestyle changes.
We're delighted with the range of applications we got from artists interested in the subject of future mobility in transport, but also those artists that have concerns around environmental issues, have concerns around the way we rely on the motor vehicle.
So there are 10 of us together.
I think it's a wonderful group of interesting people and it's so diverse.
It's amazing meeting people like Mark with their engineering background.
Within Coventry area, I did my apprenticeship here in engineering, mechanical engineering, and then worked in the automotive sector, but I've been involved in photography for around 15 years now.
So he's operating on a surface and structure level that is worlds away from, for example, someone like Mary who's in theatre and production.
From my perspective as a performing artist, it was much more heavily on the what I would call visual artist side of things. So I felt a bit like a spare part for a while.
She has audience awareness. She has body language awareness. She has all those other languages. Mark and her are on different planets, and to see them in the same room, there's almost too much to do in 5 days.
This week, being with 9 other artists, it's been an incredible experience to understand their thought process.
It takes meeting another artist who's from a completely different discipline for you know, someone like me who works in like a bit of 2D, a bit of 3D, to actually go, there's a whole nother sphere that I'm not realising is there.
How many cars go over this stretch of road on a normal, when this road's open, it's about 3 or 4 cars a second going over here.
Yeah.
Once we know who we're working with in terms of those artists, we can kind of think about, okay, who are the right people to bring in terms of industry experts, people that are working at the forefront of city planning. How do we bring those people into the conversation, and how do we encourage the richness of the debate, as I say?
The speakers have mostly come from like an engineering or non-art background or work within non-art fields. It's really inspiring to know that people in those fields are open to artists' contributions.
One of the things about putting the Artist Lab together is making sure you have a breadth of perspective. So artists having a range of views, a range of approaches to practice, a range of art forms, and crucially a range of opinions.
My premise for all this is that moving forward, if the world is going to be genuinely sustainable, then we have to start repairing more stuff. More stuff. We have to repair stuff. Stuff has to be designed to be fixed.
You also need to work with designers, so I'm just thinking the Apple products that I've had, is that actually, there are certain projects that you need to do, but companies are making it harder to repair them.
What about mobile phones and computers? I mean, if you had a mobile phone for a year, that's considered old, isn't it, or something? That's what I'm told. I don't do that, but people are this kind of instant gratification
thing that's going on, and young people are completely caught up. They have no idea about the process.
I would say probably most of the lectures actually have been completely new stuff to me. I would say there's very little there that I kind of really knew anything much about. Quite a lot of them have opened my eyes actually.
There was definitely a challenging moment or two or three or four, and I like those. They're so important. That's what I came for.
Dion has asked some really great questions, has really checked some assumptions that some of the speakers have been bringing, and that's been incredibly helpful actually.
Tell us. It's like looking at the sky, what's the weather going to do in a few minutes? We need the river. Sorry.
No, we do, and I mean, you know, we've also got the canal, let's not forget.
Yeah, but that's man-made. That's like looking at someone's pond to decide things.
Well, I'm going to defend the canal. I think the canal has a lot to offer.
Yeah, but it affects property. Property, people who own property here or what might want to invest here need to know where the river flows and what that will do when water levels rise.
I'm certainly not shy of being challenged or challenging. I'm really into constructive feedback. It's not constructive if you're not offering something that's different, if there isn't going to be a transformation in that process.
We are really interested in user-centred design. We come from that environment of research scientists, engineers and designers working together in a collaborative space, and we really adopt a user-centred philosophy. However, we can be said to be quite narrow in our approach, and that we don't adopt the wider, unconstrained view that I've seen today from the artists who've been working all week.
I'm always tentative about challenging people or experts in their field, because it's like, will I be met with open-mindedness, positivity? And that's all that's happened. Everyone's been very open and open to being challenged, basically.
They've really challenged us in the way that they think, and they've certainly complemented and added to the way that we approach the projects that we work on.
We had input from a think tank called Urban Futures, which is headed up by Lord Way, and also Simon Poulter, the artist who is facilitating this week for us.
Simon, for leading it, has been really interesting to see how he interacts with different people and how he, I don't know if provokes is the right word, but how he probes the speakers into getting them to reveal a bit more.
Over the course of an hour, some of the theoretical thinking that is being done around the way that cities are changing, and it struck me that there is no divide between how we're planning our urban spaces and the environment in which we live and work, and how we think about future transport systems.
Because the aim is to get to net zero. That's what we want to do. We're trying to reduce that carbon emissions. Very light rail, another innovative idea. What this innovation does is it allows us to put the track at a cheaper rate or a lot cost-effective rate, and because the carriage is a lot.
Earlier in the week we had Coventry City Council who gave a presentation about the future of the city, essentially, what that might look like. One of those things is the autonomous drone taxi. Obviously I have a lot of thoughts around that with my engineering background. It's a huge challenge. But then it's also how the citizens of the city might see that. We can challenge the citizens' ideas about what the future transport might look like.
I'm known as Popman Colour, or the guy who generally paints with radio control cars. So for 15 years, I've painted with radio control cars, tyres and wheels, live at car shows and events predominantly, hence why I can't afford to be with you guys doing it.
Run away.
The artists have been fantastic. They've really kind of come up with some really interesting ideas. We're at a stage where we're going to find out a bit more in terms of their thinking.
So what have you been up to?
Right, so yesterday we had production day, which meant that we could either stay in the lab or go out and explore. So I went out exploring and I got talking to people. A lot of males would come forward quite, confidently, and it was then I discovered I needed to get more female voice in there.
Yeah.
It's really important to try and capture how they see travel in the future. So I've managed to interview some women, and I've made a little film, so a little juxtaposition of how we see travel in the future through media, but also reality.
And have you found responding to the whole, you know, to all of the information that was kind of beamed at you at the start of the week? Because it was really full on.
Yeah. Well, what I found myself doing last night, bullet points from each presenter.
Yeah.
You know, like a snapshot and just a quick reminder of what really sat with me with each speaker, and everyone. You know, at least one bullet point. I was trying to make it short. But there's so much to take in.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's good, really good.
Excellent. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out, and for having some preconceptions, I hope, you know, kind of messed around with, which is good.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And shake up, you know, process shaken up.
Absolutely.
Special ops is all we can really say.
It's all you can really say. It's secret squirrel stuff.
Yeah.
Out of all the different lectures we've seen, two things came out.
I had two ideas.
I've got two kind of rough ideas.
I don't have one idea here, so that's the difficulty.
Throw loads at
Yeah, that's the difficulty. So I have numerous ideas.
I have an idea which is what Simon Poulter's described as a big ticket idea.
One is looking at the ballards of Coventry, because when you walk around and you start to focus on that one thing, you realise that there's no consistency, and I think it's interesting how that shows that the city has gone through multiple developments, and they're we're talking about decluttering the city, so wondering what happens to those, if they're taken out or moved, and maybe how they can be repurposed.
A project that I'd like to do, I think, is to possibly take a vehicle from the Transport Museum to the community space that they've got over there, and to use some kind of immersive, interactive experience and display whereby you stand one side of the vehicle and you look into the past. Looking from the front and the rear of the car, you'll see what is current, what the city currently has, and then from the other side you have an immersive experience to look into what the future could be.
I want to make a large astronomical clock out of the wonderful, wonderful Lady Godiva clock we've got in the city.
I was thinking about maybe like connecting people and the relationships that people have, like the community in Coventry, and trying to like bring a bit of fun into it as well. And because my work is kind of serious, it has a serious narrative behind it, then to have like about climate change and having different endangered animals that I would like to bring in like for further performances.
You know, in Coventry we're famous for the Ring Road, and I know that's occupied so many of the artists.
So ideas so far is a response to the Ring Road as a structure and as an experience.
Somebody mentioned about filling in spaces under the Ring Road, and I hate wasted space. I hate sort of empty spaces, and there's also a sense of that sort of darkness. I know there's car parks there, but it's kind of all dark and not very attractive, you know. And the thought of sort of repurposing those spaces to incorporate studios and maybe even things like nightclubs or theatres, that sort of thing.
And what's interesting about the Ring Road, of course, is its duality. You can go forwards and you can go backwards, clockwise, not clockwise, but that isn't it. You know, when you experience it for itself as a thing, as a piece of sculpture or a space, an experience over time that you can have, it's more like a fairground ride, a carousel, and a roller coaster. You know, you go up, you go down, you go under, you go around, you can come back over yourself.
The aim is to have like 200 people dressed as different endangered animals in a bus going around the Ring Road.
Take the existing framework that we have in place for Motorfest and try a new approach to using the Ring Road as a festival platform.
Making it colourful, somewhere that people would want to visit as an experience.
It can become a space for social interaction, to removing vehicles and bringing events and social gatherings together and exploring the city in a way the pedestrian might not otherwise explore.
Basically, my idea is to turn the Ring Road into the Ring of Saturn, conceptually. This way people can experience the ring road on foot in a festival, carnival atmosphere.
New York has what they have the High Line, which was a repurposed railway tram system that they used to have running around above the city. It guides us in that similar direction, I think, with the ring road, because it runs above the city in effect.
A lot of the talk has been about decarbonisation, scaling back car use within the city, getting people to realise, hey, we could use the ring road as a walkway. We could green it. It's just a way of getting people to fire their imaginations and experience a space that they're so familiar with already in a new, exciting way. And he took that idea and showed what it might look like if we closed off the ring road and repurposed it and peopled it and turned it into more of a green space.
Those of you who know Charing Cross Theatre, that's just an example of the possibility of that's under railway bridges and stuff. This is a very interesting one. This is in Stockholm. This is you can see the underpass.
I would like speed trains, like trams, or like all over the city.
I actually had a project in school about using water to power cells for cars. Obviously we're struggling with like sustainability.
I would say walk. More trains, more public transportation.
Definitely inaccessible and environmentally friendly. Do we all have to be Elon Musk or Virgin to travel? In the future, I would like transport to be accessible to all.
I really pushed myself out there to capture the women's voices of how they see travel. So why is only the accolades in 2019 designing transport for the future are all men? There's women with fantastic ideas.
Strange journey, to say the least, because I got all sorts of looks and all sorts of interactions that I really wanted to see. I forgot who said it during the week, but if you get people to have fun and to really connect to something, then they'll learn a lot from it.
We have the ring road. It orbits the city. It's got me thinking about other shapes in the universe that replicate this. I want to turn the ring road into the ring of Saturn. It would be a great way of getting people to reimagine that space.
That's my answer, is reworld Coventry. So people are moving out of the city to get into the nature, into our places, so bring it in.
There's probably a number of outcomes for me in terms of the Artist Lab. It's an interesting mechanism to bring people together.
Hopefully it will inspire people like myself who don't find themselves in the same room as engineers, city planners. It'll inspire us to have the courage to enter those spaces with like an air of confidence and present like big ideas, big concepts.
I hope increasingly you see artists being invited in, or rather maybe artists inviting industry specialists into conversations.
What we wanted to do with this week is to challenge assumptions. We wanted people to just stop and think.
I like to think it opens people's minds a little bit.
Seeing something perhaps they hadn't seen before, an idea they hadn't thought of before.
The purpose of this lab is to think about the future, think about Coventry and how it can be developed in terms of transport systems.
Rather than have a closed idea of what they want to happen for the city, we have a way of opening the dialogue a little bit wider.
A result of this workshop is that we actually get better engagement in the technologies that are coming, because the people developing those technologies and those systems have stopped to think actually about how people really use them, how people really engage with them.
So citizens of the city, they might get given an air taxi and now you use it, but do they actually want that? So I think part of that is challenging citizens to guide future mobility solutions that the city, I say, will want, because it's driven by the citizens of the city.
So I hope that there's more outreach to kind of have the conversations about sustainable travel, where materials come from, and actually what the residents want, rather than trying to pitch ideas at residents.
The people who actually have the responsibility for all that would be inspired by some of the ideas that have come out from our guys, and but they would see that it's actually a viable thing.
I hope what this week will achieve is just a moment of pausing and just a moment of stopping to look where we are.
I'd like to say thank you for the stimulating, thoughtful, sometimes challenging presentations. We do think we have a world-class facility, but we had world-class presentations today, so thank you very much.
We're coming at this as automotive people. The way that people have been approaching thinking about transport often starts with infrastructure, often starts with systems. And systems are great, but when you follow a system, you always get to the same end point.
We need to have those integrations together to make things work, to improve the way we are experiencing day-to-day life, such as travel.
People go into these lines of work because they want to make things better. For me, it's about creating positive change.